A year gone by. Well, I think it's time for a recap. Activate fourth wall. Andrew Hussey. Engage in highly indulgent self-insertion into story. What? Oh hell no, this is always such a terrible idea. Just leave me alone. Andrew Hussey. Examine wall. You really wish your side of the wall had an off switch. Which is to say, I really wish my side of the wall had an off switch. Andrew Hussey. Forget it. Go back to work. Okay, you're just going to ask me to recap Homestuck, though. I don't know why you'd want to sit there and watch me type. This is going to be pretty long. Andrew Hussey. Recap first year of Homestuck. Homestuck began on April 13th, 2009, the 13th birthday of our chief protagonist and future Boy Skylark, John Egbert. What do all these links do? Do they take us to other pages? Yes, they do. Beautiful. John Egbert, 3 days prior, was supposed to be the day he received the Spur beta in the mail, but it was running late. It showed up later that afternoon. After overcoming a variety of domestic adversities, he retrieved the game, along with a birthday package from his internet friend Dave Strider. John soon established game connection with another friend, Rose Lalonde, who'd spent the day badgering him about playing with her. After unsuccessfully attempting to convince Dave to play, upon connecting, Rose was able to manipulate John's environment, move his furniture around via cursor, and restructure the shape of his home. John was unable to do this to Rose's environment, however. He'd installed the client copy of the beta and required the server copy for that. The server copy was trapped in his dad's car, along with a birthday package from another friend, Jade Harley. Jade messaged John, inquiring about the package. As of this moment, neither her package nor the server copy has been recovered by John. Rose has also prepared a package for John, but had not mailed it yet. It still sits in her room. Dave's package contained the authentic stuffed bunny from Con Air. In addition to allowing Rose to control John's environment, Spur provided an array of devices Rose deployed throughout John's house. These devices, used together, provided a system by which the players could manufacture any item using the code on the back of that item's capture log card, if they gathered enough grist to pay for it. Later, they would learn to combine item codes to master the art of punch card alchemy, whereby items could be fused together in purpose and design. One device, on being activated, so purpose is and design is or. Okay. So this makes a thing that does the thing of both objects, and this does a thing that looks the same as both objects? Interesting. Noted. One device, on being activated, began a countdown and released an entity called a kernel sprite. The countdown ticked down to the moment John's house would be struck by a meteor, destroying his neighborhood. To escape this demise, John had to use the devices to manufacture a special item that looked like a blue apple and take a bite out of it, in order to transport his entire house just before impact to the safety of a mysterious dark realm, where his house would situate itself atop a tall rock column high above a blanket of clouds. This realm is called the Medium. Before he entered the Medium, though, John and Rose prototyped his kernel sprite with the large Harlequin doll his dad got him for his birthday, transforming the sprite to bear its likeness, including the ways the doll was disfigured via earlier hijinks. It had a slashed eye and one arm. So too did the sprite. When John entered the Medium, the sprite's kernel hatched, thus imbuing all the enemies John and his friends would face with properties of the sprite. The lesser adversaries John faced first all wore little Harlequin garbs. They became more powerful and more radically mutated with each successive pre-medium prototyping. After entering the Medium, John's dad was kidnapped by imps while John was looking for him. He accidentally prototyped the sprite with his grandmother's ashes, transforming it again. This prototyping had no effect on the enemies since he was already in the Medium and the kernel had already hatched. Instead, only the sprite was affected, and it took on the appearance, personality, and memories of his grandmother, becoming Nana Sprite, a game-supplied, albeit customized guide for John. She explained aspects of the game about Skya residing at the center of the Medium, beyond 7 gates floating directly above his house, and about an eternal timeless war fought there between dark and light, one that light was always destined to lose. Rose, who'd been having frequent internet connection issues, lost her connection as she tried to lift John's car to retrieve the game and the package. The car fell into the abyss below. A storm caused her house to lose power, along with its wireless internet connection. Her laptop was able to run on battery power for a time while she tapped on into the wireless signal from the laboratory next door. When her laptop ran out of power, she had to overcome more family strife and endure a gift pony in the process. Go outside in the rain and plug it into the small generator outside the mausoleum of her dead cat Jaspers. She continued her session with John inside the mausoleum, while the meteor sparked forest fires surrounding her house grew more intense. From the house, Rose's mom opened a secret passage in the mausoleum to help her escape. The passage led to the lab next door, where Rose found a stable, portable connection, a source of power and internet for her computer. She also found a terminal projecting the impact times and locations for the millions of meteors presently bombarding the planet, along with all the other live sessions of all other players around the world. She also found a little girl's room, a mutant kitten she named Vodka Mutini, and a cloning machine operating through the science of ectobiology. Its terminal was locked onto her cat Jaspers at whatever point in his life the user specified. She attempted to purify Jaspers from a moment in her earlier childhood before he whispered a secret to her, but doing so would have caused a paradox, so it paradoxified, a pile of slime instead. The machine used the slime to create a fetal paradox clone of Jaspers in a glass tube. On the monitor, Jaspers then told young Rose the secret and then vanished, only to show up dead weeks later and put in the mausoleum for years until the present. Rose left the laboratory moments before it was destroyed by a meteor impact. She transportalized back to her mom's room, proceeded to her room to wait for Dave to connect with her and rescue her from the next imminent impact. Dave was charged with acquiring his bro's copy of the game to help Rose. Earlier, he had lost his copy of the game due to a mishap involving a crow and a bottle of juice. It flew in his window, seized the game, and Dave accidentally impaled it with a sword, sending the crow and the game out the window onto a landing far below his apartment. He searched his bro's room, unable to find it, was briefly shouted by Lil Cal, and then found a note beckoning him to meet on the roof for a confrontation. Dave and his bro dueled on the roof extensively, and Dave was thoroughly bested. Upon defeating Dave, his bro dropped the copies of the game and flew off on his rocket board into the sky. Dave used the copies to connect with Rose, and quickly deployed the devices while her house was on fire. Surrounded by flaming tornadoes, and minutes away from being destroyed by a meteor, Rose prototyped her kernel sprite with Jaspers, specifically to understand the meaning of the secret he whispered to her years ago. She was advised to do this by Jade, who told her about the game in the first place. Dave then prototyped the kernel sprite again with the tentacled princess doll, given to Rose on her birthday by her mom. Both of these prototypings would have an effect on the enemies, once Rose entered the medium and the kernel hatched. Rose used the alchemitor to create the special item for her, a purple wine bottle, which she needed to break to enter. She eventually did, transporting her house just before the meteor collided. The meteor left a crater over time at the site of the impact. Site of the impact, a large white structure that looked like a wine bottle grew there, and the crater filled up with sand as the climate of the post-apocalyptic Earth gradually changed. The cork of that bottle was a large metal cylinder with an interior much like an advanced science station, with a variety of devices and monitors inside. 413 years after the meteor impact, the wayward vagabond walked through the desert and discovered this station. Inside, he found canned rations, a firefly he named Serenity, and a purifier, and 4 monitors hooked up to a keyboard. On one of the monitors was John. Just after he'd entered the medium, Wayward Vagabond could type commands to John directly, much as the readers of this story could type commands for the characters to follow. Most of John's actions upon entering the medium were authored by Wayward Vagabond, until he became preoccupied with other activities, such as building a town out of cans, playing chess with cans, and drawing chalk murals depicting the cosmological arrangements of Skya, the medium, the light and dark planets known as Prospit and Durst, and the 4 planets the kids would each occupy entering the game. The land of wind and shade, the land of light and rain, the land of heat and clockwork, and Jade's planet, which has yet to be revealed. He also activated a countdown in the station which caused it to blast out of the crater and fly to the designated home coordinates. Along the way, it passed over the sand-filled crater that was the impact site for John's meteor, on the other side of the continent. John's meteor had caused a giant white tree to grow in the crater. The tree grew an apple-like station from a branch, which fell to the sand. The Peregrine Mendicant found this station after Wayward Vagabond flew overhead. Peregrine Mendicant activated her station's homing feature as well, which caused it to fly in the same direction. Along the way, she used her terminal to attempt to command Jade, who from the perspective of the terminal had just arrived in the medium. This caused the terminal to explode for unknown reasons, leaving a hole in the station. One of the station's robotic worms recovered one of Peregrine Mendicant's falling mailboxes, and she befriended it, after earlier slaying another with her black Regisword. Got it. Wayward Vagabond landed on the site of the ancient frog ruins across the now dried-up Pacific Ocean. The site was once the island where Jade lived, but nothing of the island remained except for the ruins. The mountain her house was on, and the volcano next to it were replaced by a large empty chasm. Peregrine Mendicant landed shortly after Wayward Vagabond, and they met. They were confronted by the aimless renegade, who fired at them from the frog ruins with old weaponry he'd been hoarding, once belonging to Jade's grandpa. Millions of years ago, the frog ruins grew from a crater struck by a meteor that emerged from a spur portal in space. Jade's radioactive, omnipotent space warping dog named Becquerel emerged from this crater as well. Jade's grandpa pioneered this island and built the house Jade lives in. Her grandpa has been dead for many years and stands stuff in front of the fireplace. She has been looked after by her dog, who she calls Beck. She begins the day with several tasks to accomplish: to feed Beck and to retrieve a birthday package mailed by John. She irradiates the steak and heads outside to the site where the package will be dropped. She knows it will be dropped there because one of the reminders she wears on her fingers jogs her memory about it. She wears them to keep track of the many things she knows about the future that she's seen in her dreams. She falls asleep frequently and spontaneously. When she sleeps, her dream self is awake and living on the moon that orbits the light planet Prospect. Prospect very closely orbits Skya, a huge sphere of blue sky and clouds, which Nana describes as a dormant crucible of unlimited creative potential. When Prospect's moon eclipses Skya, it drifts into Skya for a time, mingling with the clouds. Dream Jade then witnesses many past and future events in the clouds. While asleep, she is often confused about what is real and what isn't. When she wakes up, she pieces together future events from her memory of the cloud visions and from logs recorded by her dreambot. Her dreambot is a robotic surrogate that activates while she sleeps in her bed. It mimics in the real world the movements and actions of her dream self on the moon and records a video log of what she sees while she is dreaming. Prospect's moon has 2 towers of identical design and similar design to Jade's house. Dream Jade lives in one tower. Dream John lives in the other. Dream John is still asleep, and John has no knowledge of the dream world, which is to say, the entire game session. He would initiate on his 13th birthday. When he goes to sleep, instead of waking up on the moon, as Jade does, he remains slumbering in his dream room, tormented by his subconscious. This torment is expressed when he sleepwalks, and draws troubling scribbles on the walls of his room. When awake, he cannot see the scribbles, as his subconscious suppresses his awareness of them. It is not until he has a perception-altering revelation about his dad does he begin to see them. He initially believed there were new additions to his room, perhaps scrawled by imps. However, they were present long before, visible in his room while he prepared Jade's birthday package months ago. John prepared a package for each of his friends, whose 13 birthdays were December 1st, 3rd, and 4th. He gave Rose a knitting set, and she then took intense interest in knitting. He gave Dave the pair of shades Ben Stiller wore in Starsky and Hutch, which he wore from then on, replacing the shades in the style his bro wore. He gave Jade a blue version of his own ghost shirt and some pumpkin seeds to replace the pumpkins that kept disappearing from her garden. But she didn't receive this on the birthday John intended. She received it far in the past, on her birthday when she was very young, causing her to take an interest in gardening in the first place, to take a liking to blue apparel, and to eventually befriend John over the internet and lead him, Rose, and Dave down a path where they would ultimately play the game together. Jade did retrieve his package in the present as planned, but immediately took it to another location where it disappeared. Wayward Vagabond, in the future, purified it from the location on accident. The package contained further instructions for him. He was to bring it to Peregrine Mendicant, and she was to use her station's sendificator to send it to another place in time. After she did this, the package appeared in front of young Jade on her birthday. Jade orchestrated the sequence of events through knowledge of them by her cloud visions. She orchestrated similar events for the package she sent to John, plotting the circuitous route through time and space it was meant to follow. She again utilized the Exiles for help while they were still in the medium. The Exiles, Wayward Vagabond, Peregrine Mendicant, and Aimless Renegade were all formerly agents of the Kingdoms before they were exiled by some means to post-apocalyptic Earth. Aimless Renegade, as an authority regulator in the Land of Wind and Shade, discovered the package and the beta copy in John's wrecked car, as he gave it a parking ticket. Peregrine Mendicant, working as a parcel mistress, recognized the package from a correspondence she had with Jade on Prospect some time ago and recalled it must be delivered to John. Authority Regulator would not relinquish the package, though he did give her the beta, which she delivered into a Pixis to satisfy the carved request of a mini-tablet. John carved this tablet at the request of Peregrine Mendicant through the command terminal from the future. Authority Regulator brought the package to Durst, where it ultimately wound up on the desk of Jack Noir. Jack is the Archagent of the Dark Kingdom, charged with overseeing affairs through his office's fenestrated wall portals and processing paperwork. He is forced to wear a silly garment in keeping with prototyping themes by the Black Queen, an order he resentfully complies with. He oversaw the imprisonment of John's dad, who broke loose on multiple occasions. When Jack went to handle it personally, John's dad set Jack's hat on fire. In a surly act of gratitude, he released the prisoner. John's dad fled to the Land of Wind and Shade, fought large monsters, got his hat dirty, and lost a shoe. He then carved tablets requests for new ones, which John filled via Pixis, unaware of who had requested them. Parcel Mistress followed Authority Regulator to Durst in hopes of retrieving the package. After wandering around, she encountered the Black Queen on her throne. Both the Light and Dark Kingdoms each have a king and queen. The queens sit on the thrones, on Prospect and Durst respectively, ruling the planet. The kings command armies on the battlefield, located at the center of Skya. The queen takes on the attributes supplied by the prototyping due to the 4-orbed rings she wears. When the ring is removed, the queen is restored to normal. Parcel Mistress showed the Black Queen a parking ticket she was pretending to deliver. The Black Queen directed her to Jack's office, where the ticket could be filed. Parcel Mistress met Jack and asked for the package. Jack proposed a deal and gave her a black Sword. If she would kill the White Queen and White King and bring him their crowns, he would give her the package. She accepted with little alternative. She then visited the White Queen on Prospect and explained the situation, with no intention of carrying out Jack's mission. The White Queen, understanding the futility of their situation and the need to recover the package, abdicated and gave Parcel Mistress, her crown and her ring. Parcel Mistress was instructed to go find the White King, retrieve his crown, and receive further instructions on what to do with the ring to protect it. White Queen would then eventually exile herself to post-apocalyptic Earth. On post-apocalyptic Earth, after Aimless Renegade fired on Wayward Vagabond and Peregrine Mendicant from the ruins, he spotted Wayward Vagabond's pumpkin, which Wayward Vagabond had earlier purified from Jade's house. He recognized the carving of Beck's silhouette on the pumpkin. Fearful of it, he surrendered. The three exiles soon became friends over a campfire and shared rations. Wayward Vagabond and Aimless Renegade built Exile Town out of cans, mailboxes, and bullets. Peregrine Mendicant operated Wayward Vagabond's station terminal to submit commands to John as he explored the lands of Wind and Shade. In the sky, another station teleported and fell to the ground. It was shaped like an egg, and originated from Dave's meteor impact site in correspondence with egg-shaped item he would use to enter the medium. Emerging from this station was the windswept Questant, formerly the White Queen. Aimless Renegade and Wayward Vagabond sought to impress Windswept Questant by crafting a crown for her out of a mailbox. She refused the distinction, instead giving it to the Peregrine Mendicant, who had successfully completed her mission to deliver Jade's package to John in the distant past. The means by which she went about this have yet to be seen. John entered the land of Wind and Shade by having Rose build up his house to the first gate, fighting through many imps and ogres with his powerful new alchemized weapons and entering the gate. This took him to a location beneath the clouds, far below his house. The land of Wind and Shade turned out to be a large windy planet full of dark terrain, incandescent trees, networks of pipes, and oily rivers. In addition to hosting more powerful adversaries, the land is occupied by friendly consorts, a race of salamanders. They helped John understand the mythos of the land and inform him of the planet's persecution by a sleeping denizen, which is responsible for clogging the pipes with oil and trapping fireflies under the clouds. Each planet has a sleeping denizen, which the players must first wake and then kill in the course of their journey through the seven gates. Rose's planet, the land of light and rain, is a multicolored ocean planet with white sandy islands and pink ruins, and has a denizen responsible for killing all life in the water. Dave's planet, the land of heat and clockwork, is a lava planet covered in industrial steel frame structures and turning gears, and has a denizen of yet unknown qualities. Killing the denizen releases a huge grist horde buried at the core of the planet, which is then used to fuel a process known as the ultimate alchemy. Along the way, the kids are meant to learn about their destined roles in this quest as the Heir of Breath, John, Seer of Light, Rose, Knight of Time, Dave, and Witch of Space, Jade. Over the course of their quest, the Dark King will inevitably defeat the Light Kingdom. The Black Queen and King will take control and initiate the Reckoning. This affects a belt of meteors called the Veil, which orbits far from Skya, between the 4 planets and Durst, and is host to various lab facilities used by the kingdoms. The Reckoning causes the meteors to descend on Skya, ultimately destroying it, unless the Black Queen and King can be defeated in time. Skya buys time by opening defense portals to catch many of the meteors, redirecting them elsewhere to the planet that the players come from. This is the generic template for the way the game is supposed to proceed. It can deviate from this model, however, depending on the actions of the players, and the details of the game mythology presented is unique to each group of players and their session. Long before John and his friends started playing the game, another group of players had been persistently trolling them, particularly Jade. They are furious about an action she will take that will cause major problems in the 4 kids game session and inevitably lead to their defeat. Specifically, Jade will send a package to John, apparently containing a powerful weapon he will need later, but the package winds up in the hands of Jack Noir, leading to dire consequences. They allude to other things she will do that will lead to not only trouble for the 4 kids, but for the troll players as well. The trolls consist of 12 kids from an alien planet who went through the same process as John and his friends, escaping from the annihilation of their planet via meteors and into the medium to play the game. Their game session is entirely separate from that of the 4 kids. It has the same basic template with its own Skya, Prospect, Durst, Vale, and a planet for each troll, but separate game instances of these. They also have different instances of the same character templates, such as the kings, queens, and agents such as Jack Noir. The trolls have completed their game session with yet unknown results. They now reside on a meteor in the Vale, sitting at terminals trolling John and company. From their terminals, they can choose any point in the past or future of the kids to troll, and observe what they're doing at any given moment. As a group, their only stated objective is to harass the kids, which they do so haphazardly through different points in time in the kids' timeline, though they can choose any point on the kids' timeline to talk. They are mostly resigned to the understanding that no matter what they do, they can't change the outcome of the kids' actions. The 4 most vociferous trolls so far have been Carcinogeneticist, Gallows Calibrator, Grim Auxiliatrix, and Audios Toreador. The other 8 are Apocalypse Arisen, Twin Armageddons, Arsenic Catnip, Arachnid's Grip, Centaur's Testicle, Terminally Capricious, Caligula's Aquarium, and Cuttlefish Color. They have yet to be heard from. Carcinogeneticist appears to have spearheaded the group's trolling campaign while he was in the thick of his game session. The exile commanding him from a terminal in the apocalyptic future of his planet was Spade Slick. This is one difference between the game sessions and John's, who had Wayward Vagabond as an exile commanding him. In Carcinogeneticist's session, his version of Jack Noir became exiled along the way and took on the name Spade Slick. 3 other agents were also exiled, and the 4 of them formed a gang called the Midnight Crew, and spent years building up a dark city in the future wasteland of the Troll's dead planet. Another difference in the Troll session is that at some point along the way, the Black Queen was also exiled, later joined a rival gang called the Felt, assumed special powers that make her highly inadvisable to kill, and came to be known as Snowman. It was not until Slick confronted the Felt in their mission that he discovered the station terminal to command Carcinogeneticist, and not before Snowman blinded him in one eye, severed his arm, and locked him in a vault. Each troll has a different trolling strategy, and a different rhythm by which they hop around the kids' timelines to chat with them. Carcino's strategies, for the most part, was to begin trolling them at the very end of their adventure, the moment at which he was most angry with their actions, and then gradually work backwards, mostly talking to John. This proves to be mutually frustrating, however, as John knows less and less about the situation the further into the past Carcinogeneticist goes. Similarly, the further into the future John progresses, the more he has the advantage over Carcinogeneticist with knowledge of his future conversations with him and vice versa. Over the course of the opposing directions, one of the 2 sides of the conversation, John learns more about the nature of the game and why they're being trolled in the first place, and in spite of hostility, they gradually befriend each other through an inevitably alluded to on both sides of the conversation. Earlier on in the correspondence between John and Carcinogeneticist, which is to say late for CG discovers he needs to get in touch with Jade, who refuses to talk to him at that time period. So he delivers a message to her months earlier, months in her past, telling her she needs to contact him when she's in trouble. She will know to do this when her dreambot explodes in the future, an outcome that has not yet happened. 2 other trolls, Grim Auxiliatrix and Audios Toreador, have targeted only Rose and Dave thus far. Grim Auxiliatrix had hopped arbitrarily back and forward in Rose's timeline to talk to her, and is attempting to cultivate a friendship with her that now seems rigged through a series of conversational time loops, while seeking counsel from Dave on how to befriend her. Audios Toreador sought counsel from Rose on how to troll Dave more effectively after getting severely counter-trolled by him. He is under the impression he rebounded quite nicely, though. Oh, I thought we were gonna go for sick fires, bro. Gallows Calibrator has stayed mostly linear in her trolling patterns, and has done so under the guise of helping the kids on their quest. She convinces John to take a shortcut through his land, just shows him the Denizen's Palace, leads him to the warp back to his house, and then shows him how to fix the faulty rocket pack he made earlier through an alchemy mishap. She tells him to use the rocket pack to fly up the 7th gate, enter the Denizen's Palace, and kill it while it sleeps. He complies with this, and flew through the 7th gate, in spite of reservations from Dave, who just entered the medium the moment before John took off. Carcinogeneticist also assisted Rose. Just after Gallows Calibrator, pardon me. just after she bested an ogre with ease. She counseled her on understanding her role as the Seer of Light, and the meaning of the voice in her head as an exile, issuing commands from a terminal. In her case, it was the exiled White Queen, issuing commands from the egg-shaped station in the future. Since Dave is Rose's server player, the terminal station from Dave's impact site issues commands to Rose, just as the station at Rose's site, which Wayward Vagabond found, issues commands to John. After conversing with Grimmock's Heliotrix, Rose found Jasper's sprite and interrogated him about the secret which she found so maddeningly mysterious years ago. He explained elements of the mythos of her land and how she need to learn to play the rain to produce the musical analog of a genetic code to reintroduce life into the ocean. In response to her questions about his secret, he simply replied, "Meow." She mistook this for more nonsense, but it was in fact the secret he told her years ago. The 4-letter sequence, meow, unlocked a genetic code in her subconscious, which she would spend years scrawling on her wall, using those letters in place of the typically used GCAT letters, while completely oblivious to the scrawlings, and their meaning just as John was. As Jasper said, she would understand their meaning when her dream self wakes up. Rose's dream self lives on a tower on the moon of Durst. Dave's dream self lives on the same moon on the other tower. It was suggested by Rose's future self, who is fully awake in the tower, that Dave had already been awake in his tower all along without realizing it. This was suggested in a conversation she had in the future with Dave. It was an alternative future timeline not meant to be. This future timeline came about by this series of events. Dave was able to enter the medium by connecting with Jade as his server player. Jade got copies of the game from the Frog Ruins after she delivered John's package to her past self. She snuck into the ruins while Beck was asleep and retrieved the game from a Lotus capsule, which had been ticking down for millions of years. The game was Dave's copy from the future, the same one that fell out the window with the impaled crow. Once she got the game, the time capsule started ticking down again, set to expire 413 years later. When the exiles are there, she drops some items in the ruins, leaving them for aimless renegade to find, and leaving her base jammed in the elevator. Beck then found her, took her back to her room, and grounded her there for the rest of the evening. She quickly helped Dave set up the game, upgrading his alchemeter heavily, and crafting the special item he needed to enter the medium, the red egg, which needed to be incubated and hatched to activate. She prototyped his kernel sprite with the impaled crow, which would affect the enemies later, including the Black Queen. The sprite built a nest on top of his apartment's antenna tower and stole the egg to incubate it for hours. A very large meteor was soon bearing down on his city. Dave then entered the medium through a series of unseen events. Jade was asleep, thus forbidden by Dave from interacting with his environment at all. Jade complied for fear of retribution. Dave was faced with the crow sprite, which appeared to be suggesting he prototype it again with the remains of Lil Cal. Dave consulted with John to this, who was about to rocket up to the 7th gate. John had no advice and proceeded up through the gate against better judgment. Dave prototyped the sprite with Cal. John entered the palace, presumably found Denizen and was easily killed by it, as was the intent of Gallo Calibrator's trick on him. This meant John could not establish a connection with Jade to rescue her from the looming meteoric threat, and Dave and Rose lost contact with her, presuming her dead. Dave and Rose then spent the next four months in the medium, advancing as far as they could to collect information before Dave decided to travel back in time and change the past. Dave used his timetables to go back to the moment he was about to prototype with Cal. Both he and his past self strongly urged John not to go through the gate. John was reluctant at first, but soon reconsidered and flew down beneath the clouds. Future Dave then gave present Dave all his advanced gear and prototyped the crow sprite with himself to make Dave's sprite, thus serving as his own guide from the future. Before going back in time, future Dave convinced future Rose to go to sleep. He suggested her dream self would be unaltered by the timeline shift, and in her dream state she would remember the events from the future. When Dave went back, Rose's future dream self assumed the position of Rose's present dream self. Rose fell asleep, and on Durst's moon, she instantly woke up. She then saw all the genetic scrawling she did in the meow letters and understood their meaning immediately. Meanwhile, on Durst below, the Black Queen again insisted that Jack Noir abide by the dress code. He refused, and the Queen threatened him. He picked up Jade's package to John, removed what was inside, and used it to slice her ring finger off. He then killed the Black Queen, put on the ring, and donned the full upgrade supplied by the 3 prototypings. He then became Jack Spur's Noir Crow, which is the name I just made up right now. And then after you started watching me type in this ridiculous study, I photoshopped for myself with my cool horse painting propped up in the background. Andrew Hussey. I didn't read any of that. Do something less boring. MSPA readers, shut the fuck up. Andrew Hussey. Retrieve arm from background. Huh? Oh, Cal, please, not now. Andrew Hussey. Why don't you keep drawing Homestuck or something? Oh, but I don't merely draw Homestuck. Type forward. I'm about to make a joke. Okay. I conjure these intrepid fantasy-scape with tears bled from the wisdom-weary eyes of 50,000 imaginary magicians. I pull heavy drags from the brooms of inspiration with enchanted bellows marauded from a guild of churlish mythical dwarves. Vast bulbous riddle spinners push the silken strands of pure whimsy through hideous abominable spinnerets, and it is that which I weave this audacious cocoon of exquisite lies. And when it hatches, a great moth of titillation will awaken and roar and beat its wings, and the powder settling down will arrest the humors of an enormous, terrible old beggar, relaxing the vulturous, leathery vice grip he's fixed around your captive mind. Andrew Hussey, this is stupid. Stop being a wise ass and get to drawing. Alright. It won't be that exciting to watch, though. I'll pull up Photoshop again. Here's the file I was using for the fourth wall. What do you want me to draw? Andrew Hussey, can you show us what's going on with John again? Sure. How about if I drag the content from one of John's files under the fourth wall layer so we can make a more graceful transition out of this ludicrous, highly disruptive self-insertion arc? Andrew Hussey, that sounds like a good idea. Boop. Oh, and then you can type something like switch walls view to show us what's going on with John. Here, I'll prepare the GIF file for that. It'll just take a few seconds. Go ahead, say that. Switch walls view to show us what's going on with John. You decide that's entirely enough of that. If this website becomes any more self-aware in a playfully self-deprecating yet weirdly self-aggrandizing manner, you're going to go drown a bag of puppies in a sewer. John. Answer Gallows Calibrator.